What's up out there? Let's talk about 3.23 Affliction League and my plans for it. I don't know how well these plans are going to stick, but this is what my thumbnail sketch of a plan is going to be. And we're going to theory craft a little bit here. But first and foremost, I was planning on doing Righteous Fire. That is a build that I spent the end of Crucible League working on. I worked that up just enough time to get somewhat of an understanding of it, but I was still learning a lot of the game. I spent a lot of time in Trial of the Ancestors with Righteous Fire, learning a lot of the different league mechanics, the Abyss and Blight and all that kind of stuff. I spent a lot of time this league learning different mechanics. Then we did that race league with Lake of Calandra and the Sentinel thing. In 7 days, I got into mapping. I got deep into the red mapping. I didn't have a whole ton of the maps filled out, but I got over halfway through that mapping process. So what my plan for this next league was to go Righteous Fire. One of the things that I loved about the way the race league worked for me and the way I'd set that race league up was I went into my Atlas tree and I spec'd into essences early. And because when you start off with 0 maps, every map is new. So it was easy to spec into the essence portion of it and then start filling in the Kirok and the mapping nodes later on as you needed more to focus more on stuff. Like at the very beginning, every map is new. So it was easy to go into essences and then start collecting essences. I do plan on playing SSF. So collecting things like Syndicate unveils for crafting options, all the map crafting options, essences, stuff like that. I was going to put Metamorph somewhere in there. And if the Atlas tree stays similar, Metamorph was going to be on the same side as the essence portion of it. So it was going to be kind of easy for me to go into essences and then transition into Kirok and the mapping, shaping the mountains and whatever those are all called, and then go into the metamorph part and get more of what I wanted to get was the crafting stuff early. I wanted to knock all that out and get enough stuff that once I did get some builds going, I could have some things sitting there in the bank waiting to go and build gear. Well, that's kind of changed. They've dropped metamorph. We now have to go into ultimatum, and Righteous Fire doesn't, I don't want to say it's a non-starter, but it doesn't look like it's going to be in the shape that it was. Pox is, I watched his video about it. He's kind of, he doesn't think it's dead, but it's not in the same incarnation. I watched Captain Lance's video and he's talking about using totally different ascendancies and classes and everything, which I'm curious to see what he's got. I think the Guardian one, I think that's the one with the big AoE, Righteous Fire, not totem, a minion that runs around. I think that looks cool. That looks very promising. I'm interested in it, but I want something that's solid at league start that I can just jump into. And for a little bit of background, I was debating on whether I wanted to do 2 builds this league. In Tota, I tried a bunch of different builds. I tried 5 or 6 different builds in total. And what I found is that I'd spend a lot of time going through and, a week of building the class, and then I'd get into the mapping section. But because I'd gotten so much further with Righteous Fire, I was kind of not interested in running the other build because now I had to start gearing that up, but I didn't have the currency to gear it. And I was running, I'd run into roadblocks with Righteous Fire. I'd go fire up a new class because I thought, well, this gives me a path forward, gets you that dopamine hit that something's moving forward, and then it would run into a roadblock and I'd go back to Righteous Fire, figure it out and move on. So I think I now understand where everything comes from and what I need to do. So I don't have that scatterbrain mentality of running a bunch of different builds all at the same time. So I was going to focus on one build, and I was considering a second build for bossing, because one of the things that I really want to do this next league is get all 4 void stones, and that is going to be a challenge. It was definitely a challenge in Tota. So I was considering maybe running through the campaign with Righteous Fire and then turning around and running through the campaign with a totally different build that was based on bossing exclusively. But I wasn't sure what build that was going to be, and I just kind of, I wasn't sure. Then I watched some guy's video. He was talking about Deep Delve. It was like a 2-hour video. I had to break that up over some sessions, but he brought up boneshatter, and I've been wanting to do a boneshatter build for a while. I just haven't gotten to it yet. So what you are looking at in a very long and roundabout way is a boneshatter build. This is Tripolar Bear's build. This is kind of where I'm at in the game right now. I thought about showing the build in the game, but I may do that here in a minute, but this is basically a discussion about the league planning, not necessarily the gameplay specifically. So I'm trying this out. I'm in mid 50s, maybe level 60, somewhere in there right now in the campaign. I'm in Act 7, I think. So 6 or 7, somewhere in there, chugging along. And I hope to finish that off and try it out doing some mapping. I like this build for a few reasons. Number one, it looks like it stayed through all the changes that they've made, and it may be a little bit better for what it's worth. I watched somebody's video. They were talking about some potential changes to it, some downsides with like the divergence gems and stuff like that, or awakened, whatever the other, anomalous, whatever all the other names of the gems are. I haven't even gotten one. Or if I've gotten one, it's not been for Righteous Fire, which is what I was focused on. So that's not going to be a change that I notice. The other thing too is because they're changing so much with this league, I feel like if I stuck with Righteous Fire, I would keep trying to do the things that I did last league. Whereas if I go to a completely different build altogether, like boneshatter, then I'm going to be focused on what boneshatter does. I'm learning the build anyway, so it's not going to be as ingrained that things should be this way. I just won't know the difference because it's a new build and a new league and new mechanics and everything else that goes with that. So that is kind of why I got to this point. I was interested in boneshatter anyway. And the other thing that I see as a very big positive to boneshatter is that it's built on the Juggernaut, which is the same ascendancy. It looks like it uses a lot of the same ascendancies as except it goes up in here to undeniable for accuracy, but we get what? Untiring, unflinching, and unyielding, and then either unbreakable or unstoppable. And this thing goes into, let's see, in-game. Yeah, so this is just staying in these 4. It's not even touching unflinching or unyielding. So we're basically getting unyielding for accuracy, and I guess that's it. Yeah. Okay, yeah, because you would have to go up through these 2. Whereas, yeah. So it's kind of the similar path on the ascendancy side. It's the same kind of things. It's a lot of the same kind of gear as well. And it's gear that I'm more comfortable with, and it's melee. I really like melee builds. If I play Diablo or Diablo 2 or Grim Dawn or anything like that, the first thing I go to is like a knight or a paladin or a barbarian, some kind of build like that. I love the stand your ground, beat the hell out of something. In fact, the original Diablo, some of the best memories I have is just standing there tanking all the Azure Drakes and stuff around me while a friend of mine's running around with an Amazon shooting it all. I'm beating on it, and I got the whole crowd stuck, kind of tanking the whole thing. I love those kinds of builds. That's what I like. And Righteous Fire is more of a magical kind of build, which is fine. I don't mind it. I enjoy it. It's kind of the same principle. You stand them sort of there. But this build really excels at it. And this is also two-handed. A lot of the stuff that we're getting in here, it's changed from where I'm at. But like all of this here, Wrecking Ball is two-handed weapon damage. There's tons of stuff for axes, two-handed damage, stuff like that. I really like the look, the feel, and the play style of this. The build that I've got going right now is kind of weak. I need to work on gear and stuff like that. I'm just trying to smash through the campaign and get done with it, and I'm running into some issues. But it's not build issues. It's because I'm trying to get through it and not messing around with the gearing as much. Anyway, I really like what this is and what it's doing. For a second class, I'll say it now. I want to do a Scion, and I'll get into why here in just a second. In fact, maybe that's a good reason to just go ahead and start talking about this. We won't save those changes. As far as ascendancies go, I'm looking at these. This looks more, what is this? The Warlock ascendancy that we're getting. This looks, because it's got some minion stuff down here and energy shield and stuff like that, this looks more like a magic build or minion or something. I don't know what Ravenous, Pacify, Penance Mark, Affliction, or Summon Dark Effigy does, but it's doing a lot of things that I'm assuming goes into more minion stuff. And this doesn't look like an ascendancy I want to do, basically is what I'm saying. So we can get rid of that one. This one here, this Warden of the Magi, this one looks really cool. I like these tinctures. And now that I wasn't sure, when I was watching the reveal, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with Righteous Fire. I thought all three ascendancies looked really cool. And I'm like, I don't know which one I want to do. But now that I've switched over to Boneshatter, this one actually looks like the big choice for me because you're getting defenses from equipped body armor doubled if it has no socketed gems. I don't know that I'm going to run that, but the point is with this one here, you've got grants level 20 bark skin. That's more defense of standing still and dealing damage. You've got reduced avoid non-damaging ailments on your per bar. Like, I don't know, I'd have to read this a little bit more carefully, but the tinctures, you apply that reminds me of Dark Souls where you could light your sword on fire and start fighting stuff with that. This looks very much melee focused, or maybe not melee focused exactly, but this looks more like an ascendancy that I would use for Boneshatter. So this is the ascendancy that I'm going to go with, which is the Warden of Magi. Now, there is a third one, and that is the Primalist. This one is the build your own version of it. And this one here, now, I've been wanting to do a Scion build for a while now, mainly because we're not going to have one in PoE 2. They don't have that class. I'm curious how the class works. From what I've read, it's a lot of a glass cannon type thing. But you can get almost all the other ascendancies added to it, and you can just do some cool stuff with it. So I'm kind of curious to what that does. Now, I think this ascendancy here would go phenomenally with a Scion build because you can add whatever other stuff you want to it and really juice up that build. So I'm really curious what somebody's going to do. I'm going to be looking at this maybe in the next month, like late December, early January. I'm going to try to make myself a mental note, which always gets lost, but I'm going to try to make a mental note that I need to come and see what people are doing with Scion builds. I don't care what people have done in previous leagues. We've got all new skill gems, a lot of skill gem changes. We've got these three ascendancies. We've got a lot of changes here. I'm curious what somebody can do. And maybe I'll try to work one up on my own and see how it goes. I don't know. I really want to do a Scion build before we move over to PoE 2, and I think this would be the prime league to do it with because of this ascendancy right here. So right out of the gate, we're going to do Boneshatter, and then eventually I think I'm going to do a Scion build for something, just shits and giggles, see how it goes, and try that out. So those are going to be the two builds that I'm really looking forward to this league. As far as the league content goes, we are definitely playing Affliction League. I am not going to skip it like I did Sanctum and Toda. Sanctum came back. I've never played Sanctum before, but it bounced off me. I didn't care. It was okay. I tried it a couple of times. I think you have to have a specific build for it. I just didn't feel like putting the time in. I spent all my time learning all the other mechanics in all the other mechanics we have in the game. I'll just say that. And I didn't really care for Sanctum all that much. It felt like Heist. I'm not saying they play like Heist. I'm not saying it's like Heist. I'm saying I bounced off of Heist. I didn't care for it. And I bounced off of Sanctum. I didn't care for it. I bounced off of Toda. I didn't care for it. Ultimatum smells like all of those, so I don't think I'm going to play a whole lot of Ultimatum. Although we do get Catalyst there. That's where those moved over to. So maybe I will play more than I think. But my big focus early on is going to be getting into Essence monsters. And then we're going to get Syndicate, try to knock out all the Unveil stuff. I want to get into Legion. I finally found out how you get your 5-way map device. I got that done in this league. And then I want to push into bossing. I would love to get all 4 Void Stones this league. That's kind of my goals. I want to get a lot of things done early. I want to try and see how fast I can get mapping done, how much I can knock that out, because I think I know how to get that knocked out fairly quickly now. Then I want to get on with it, and I want to get into finishing off the unveils, finishing off, I just want to get all of this done because I'm playing SSF. I want to have a stockpile of essence. I want to have a stockpile of catalyst. I'm going to try to focus in more on not picking up random crap gear. Because I have to keep clean all that stuff out. So one of my goals this league is to focus on 1 or 2 builds, not try to be scatterbrained and, oh, that looks cool. That looks cool. I want to focus in very tightly as much as I can. You're playing along, you get some cool piece of gear and you're like, man, that looks awesome. I'm going to go try that. I want to try to focus in on my gearing as much as possible. And I want to focus in on not having as much crap to clean out of my inventory come the end of the league. So, and I want to focus on doing the challenges earlier. Like I got into the challenges way too late because I didn't understand what a lot of the challenges were. And I had to actually go into learning how Abyss worked, learning how Legion worked, learning how Blight worked, stuff like that. I had to go in and learn a lot of that stuff before I could actually even do some of the challenges because I didn't know what I was getting into. And now that I do, I know I can do more of the challenges. I definitely want to get 16 of them because that's when you get the full base cosmetics. Everything after that's just variants of it. So I want to see if I can get those 16 knocked out and then do the variants later. But I think that sums up all of my plans. What do you guys think of these ascendancies and what builds are you planning on playing now? Has anything really shaken up? Has this really shaken up all the changes we've got with the gyms and everything? Has that really shaken up what your plans were and like made you totally rethink things and you're going to do something different? What do you think of these ascendancies? I think they're phenomenal. I'm really digging them. And I hope this kind of stuff goes core. I would love to see multiple ascendancies like this. It just makes the build process even more complicated and the game that much more ridiculous, but I love it. I think this is great. So anyway, let me know what you are doing for your league start and what ascendancies you're going to choose down below. And that will do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.